When he died, he discovered the truth about earthly suffering. Many wonder why God allows suffering, especially for those who follow him faithfully. I, T.S. Dismas, once grappled with this question, but my perspective shifted after a near-death experience. My life was filled with adventure. I served in the military, pursued various sports, and traveled extensively. However, unknown to me, exposure to toxins during my service led to debilitating autoimmune diseases, including severe damage to my heart. Facing heart failure, I found myself in the ER, teetering on the edge of life and death. Amid the frantic efforts to save me, I turned to prayer, finding solace and acceptance. Suddenly, I felt myself enveloped in a profound sense of love, peace, and joy. Despite the chaos, I experienced an overwhelming calmness. In this surreal state, I sensed a radiant light behind me, beckoning with warmth and purpose. As I moved towards it, my awareness expanded, and I felt an intense desire to be in its presence. Approaching the light, I was immersed in an indescribable river of love, expanding my capacity for such profound emotions. Within this luminous realm, I longed to see Jesus, and instantly, the light opened into a space filled with countless radiant beings embodying divine love and grace. I instantly recognized Jesus without any need for explanation or introduction. When I expressed my wish to see his face, it appeared before me. What struck me most was my inability to recall his features even as I gazed upon him. Despite witnessing his smile and love, I couldn't retain the memory, only recalling the radiant brightness of his face, much like the light I had seen before. I came to understand that my brain's condition in the hospital hindered my ability to remember his divine visage. Our communication transcended speech, feeling more akin to telepathy as we effortlessly understood each other's thoughts. Jesus guided me through my shortcomings, emphasizing 3 key lessons. First, the importance of dedicating my actions entirely to him through prayer. Second, the need to embrace suffering joyfully, making sacrifices without expecting anything in return, whether through small gestures or enduring significant pain. Facing my medical conditions with joy meant accepting my circumstances rather than fighting against them, mirroring God's willing sacrifice for us. I learned that true love often requires sacrifice. Lastly, I understood the necessity of sharing this love by genuinely caring for others and desiring their well-being. Before my near-death experience, NDE, I leaned heavily on science, but afterward, my faith in God became unwavering. While I still value science for its practicality, I realized certain immaterial aspects like love, trust, and truth cannot be measured. Similarly, while we cannot measure God, we can experience his presence. My encounter with him solidified my faith, though I acknowledge others may have strong faith without such experiences. Faith, I've come to realize, must be experienced rather than quantified. My conviction in God's existence stems from the peace I now feel, particularly about death. Although many fear death, my perspective shifted after confronting mortality. Acceptance of our journey towards death can bring peace amidst uncertainty. I was gripped by fear when facing death, unlike in combat or martial arts where fear never overtook me. However, my encounter with God during those moments transformed my fear into courage. Even when doctors warned of the possibility of death, I remained calm during my ICU stay, demonstrating how God can turn fear into strength. Why does God permit suffering for his followers? It's a question many contemplate. While we often resist suffering, life, much like a football game, has rules beyond our control. Constantly having our desires fulfilled can distort reality. Hence, suffering tests and fortifies us. Embracing change and seeking happiness aligns us with God's plan, even if it's unclear initially. The purpose of suffering may not be apparent until we've overcome it. That's why I went through this experience. At first, I focused on the intense suffering, but now I understand its significance. In heaven, God filled me with love, healing the pain I endured. I came to realize that God permitted suffering to draw me closer to love, enriching my life in ways I couldn't have imagined. It was an act of kindness on his part. When I had the option to stay or return, I thought about my family. However, God showed me that his love for them exceeds mine by far. He reassured me that he could take care of them better than I ever could. Understanding this, I made the decision to return, knowing that even though I might face more suffering, I would also experience more love upon my return. As I started my journey back, the only discomfort I felt in heaven was leaving Jesus. Returning to the familiar yet unfamiliar world of earth made my soul feel out of place. Despite this, I proceeded with my decision, knowing it was the right path. So, I had to go back through the tunnel, and at its end, instead of darkness, I saw my hospital room. It struck me that I hadn't brought anything to heaven, no good deeds, just my broken heart. In life, I loved myself more than God, but I did have some love for Him. As I looked at my hospital room, I felt a mix of anticipation and sorrow. Excitement for the opportunity to live for God, despite the pain of leaving His presence. In the room, medical equipment surrounded me, the Lucas machine performing chest compressions, tubes, and brain monitors. It seemed they were ceasing life-saving efforts, though it was not explicitly stated. When I returned to my body, the connection to heaven closed, and I was enveloped in the familiar chaos of life, pain, noise, and distractions. Thank you all for listening to this interview. I want to remind you that God genuinely loves you. I know many may doubt this, but I hope one day you'll experience the same love and joy I did forever. That's my wish for all of you.